Okay, so I just finished speaking about the run chart, and as part of that, started to talk about this idea of in control and out of control. So I just in the quality tool number 5, I just want to just focus in this area a little bit, the idea of the control chart. So the control chart is really about formalizing the process I was just talking about in terms of using the run chart to understand variance, understand the trend of variance. But now we can also start to think about parameters within that run chart to let us know when we're in control and when we're out of control. So in the example I gave you, we've got an upper control limit, or just the line of 3 hours was our control point, where we sort of say anything above that is out of control, anything below that is in control. But sometimes you can also have an upper and a lower limit. So you can say anything between this bandwidth is in control. So anything below this lower limit control limit is too low, anything above it is too high. So the idea of having those control lines lets us know when the process is in control and when it's out of control. Now, importantly, if I bring it back to the idea of continuous improvement, those control lines will shift as we continually improve. So variation. So as we've got a process down, and the process is, say, it's not so refined, or perhaps it's in its infancy, or it's still quite crude in the way that we do things, the the band of control can be quite broad. So the variance will jump around a bit. So we may go from uh, a variance of 3 all the way up to a variance of 10 and still be in the control bandwidth, because that's where we're at. That's our capacity at this stage. But as we go to process improvement, you'll see as we start to analyze, we start to use our continuous improvement skills and techniques to look at a particular opportunity or problem area, and we start to improve it. We start to get greater control over that process. Our bandwidth can actually come down. So the variance, the way that the outputs jump around, the scope of variance will be far more limited. And that's because we're getting better with our process, and we're getting better with the way we do things. We've got greater control over what we're doing. So you can see that in this illustration here, where at this point here, we start, this is where we would now start to, we're jumping around a bit. Let's use our continuous improvement, our plan, do, check, act. Let's trial something. And we can now start to see that there's a downward trend in the variables, and we're starting to see greater stability. So then all of a sudden, our standards shift. So the bandwidth, or the width for tolerance here, is far less, because we've got greater control over the process. And this is where the idea of continuous improvement comes in. So we're much better at managing our process now. We've got greater control. So that's the role of the control chart as an additional application to the run chart that I was talking about earlier.